Welcome back, everybody. Today is going to be my official review of the Alfawise U20 printer sold by GearBest. For full disclosure, GearBest did provide a hefty coupon for me to purchase this. It did not pay for the full amount, probably about 80% of it, just to let you guys know up front. So I have printed, and I'm going to set a few things down here. I've printed with it so I can show you. I printed almost their entire spool of 200-gram spool of yellow filament they provided. You can see some of the things I provided, printed with it, the bed leveling nuts, this failed spool holder for the CR10 that didn't work, the spool holder back here, and a number of things that aren't in the camera and I don't know where are right now that I printed out of that yellow. I also printed quite a few things in the blue here and this brown. Not all of those are in the camera either right at the moment. And I printed this great big thing, which I designed and printed as a special request to a client. It started out with this full 1 kilogram spool of red filament, and it used almost all of it. And so at this point in time, I feel I've probably printed pretty much the equivalent of 2 1 kilogram spools of filament with this printer. So I've got a pretty good handle on its strengths and its weaknesses. But for right now, and let me show you this real quick. I designed this for a client. This is obviously designed for those of you who vape. This is designed to hold 30 millimeter tanks for vaping. I'm not a vapor myself. My wife is. So you guys who are probably know more about what this does than I do. But it holds 30 tanks. I made a nice hollow in the back. I made a drawer that slides into it to use that space up. This is all the support material, way too much support material. But I'm showing you this because this was a 60-hour print and then another 5 to print the drawer. All was done on the Alfawise U20. So I need to get this sent out to him. So I am going to stop the video here, get this packed up and mailed, and then I'm going to be back to finish this review. Hey everyone, welcome back. So I got my big item that I made, packaged and shipped off, and I have some of the other things I've printed on this printer, the Alfawise U20. Obviously not this flashlight. Let's get it out of the picture. And we're going to continue with this review. I'm going to tell you the things I like about it, and then I'm probably going to tell you some of the things I don't like about it. But let's get started. And that large item I showed you previously, that was a 60-hour print. Now, I had no power outages and no filament outages, so I didn't get a chance to test that functionality that time. So I have printed probably 2.5 spools of filament so far, maybe even a little more out of this printer. You can see some of the things I've printed. They have turned out really well. This was probably a 10-hour print. All these little test tool holders I made that I didn't quite like till I got the one here that I did like. The little modular phone holder, and you can see it prints very accurately. Everything, get this up closer, everything turns on this, fit right together with no issues at all. So it prints very accurately. I made a couple of these to test its ability to print, and they broke loose right away, and they printed beautifully. And here's a second one I printed. I had a lot of red because I was printing all that stuff in red, and it was easier just to go ahead and keep printing this stuff in red than it was to change the filament. Here is some battery holders for 18650 batteries, and these have a little lip and a little spot in there that fits on, and they fit on really nice. I printed all of these. Here's a little battery dispenser I printed. Here is a failure where I did have a power outage, and I had some issues with that after restarting it. I didn't like where it stopped, so I just went ahead and started it over. It was just kind of a test piece anyway. Here is a piece, and you can see, maybe you can't see it, you can see the infill, so you can see that it's not completed. Now, I had a leftover spool of filament with about I don't know, 100 wraps on it. Not enough to do this. At least I didn't think. So I was trusting the filament out sensor, which by the way I had already tested before, and the filament out sensor does work quite well. But what happened was when they put the spool, I'm telling you this so you don't do what I did. When they put the filament on, they tuck the filament in one of the holes here and bend it over. The motor wasn't strong enough to pull that out, so the printer thought it was never out of filament. So go inside here. If you're going to rely on a filament out sensor, go on the inside and cut that off so it does actually run out. So what do I like about this printer? And I got a list here. Let me get my list back up where I can see it. What do I like about this printer? First and foremost, it is extremely easy to assemble and get adjusted and functioning correctly. If you've watched some of my previous videos, and I did have an unboxing and assembly video on this printer, I kind of fast forwarded through the actual assembly part because once I was done, I realized, well, it really is just that easy. All you need to do, I'm going to come back to this, all you need to do when you unpack it, it comes in two major pieces, the top and the bottom. The bottom already has the bed mounted. It even already has the glass it comes with mounted. All the belts are on it and they're already adjusted. All you really have to do is put in, I think it's 4 or 6 bolts that holds the top to the bottom, and then put these little side plates in. The side plate on this side has the Z-axis limit switch. You need to put that on. It's already on it. Just screw it right on, and I kind of put a square on it to make sure that this way it was nice and square for me, and tighten it down. The control box comes completely assembled and ready to go. The wiring, you've got to plug in the limit switches and you've got to plug in the motors, and some of the wires in the back have to be plugged in as well, but they have those little connectors that push, then have a threaded ring to hold them down. So, I mean, literally 30 minutes and this thing is out of the box and assembled and ready to print. The hot end, the filament, feeder, everything is completely assembled. The bed came properly adjusted. I didn't have to really do a darn thing other than what I just outlined and level it. Really, there was nothing else to do. It was pretty surprising how easy it was. So, if you've heard all these reports about people who buy printers and can't get them to work right, sure. I mean, not every printer that comes out of the factories is perfect. There are some lemons, and some things will not work right. But an awful lot of what I read suggests to me they're being put together by people who really don't understand mechanical things and things that have moving parts in relationship to one another, and they're just screwing it together any old way they can and then upset when it doesn't print. This printer pretty much solves that problem. If you've never put a screw or a bolt in your life, you should be able to put this printer together. It really is that easy. Next thing I liked about this printer was the touch screen. The touch screen is really, really pleasant to use. You tap on, if you want to print something, you put your card in with your STL file on it. You tap folder, then you tap the one you want and you tap print. I think it asks you, are you sure? And you tap yes, I'm sure, and the print begins. It is also very easy to level the bed. You tap level on the screen, then you tap which corner you want to go to, and it moves it from corner to corner for you. I typically also check the center, and I'll tell you why I check the center here in a bit. But it's just really easy to use. Same with heating things up. Now with heating things up, it moves up 5. If you want to heat the extruder and the bed to level it, yeah, it moves up 5 degrees at a time. So you're tapping 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, or it's kind of easier on the old style where you're just spinning the wheel. But that's really my only complaint about the touch screen. Other than that, it's really nice. I really like it. The bed itself, let me get this off here temporarily because I want to talk about that, but not right this second. The bed itself, you can't see it. I'm not going to be able to move it enough without making a giant mess. The bed itself sits on 6 rollers. My other 2 printers, the Ender 3s, sit on 4. 6 with the rollers directly across from one another makes for an extremely easy to adjust set of rollers and a very, very stable bed. It's really smooth and it's really stable. The entire assembly, the extrusions, is really solid. There is no flex in this thing at all. It is really good in that regard. I'm getting, and because of that, I think a lot of it, and the same with the Ender 3, a lot of it, the lack of flex is one of the reasons why prints are so good and so accurate, because if your frame is flexing, the printer, the hot end isn't where the printer's software thinks it is. So that's a big problem. It comes with a very nice aluminum feeder mechanism. None of this plastic stuff that you're going to have to change immediately. And it comes so well adjusted. I mean, I really didn't adjust anything on this. And the Z-axis almost goes down by itself. It is that well adjusted. It's got a support at the top for the Z-axis lead screw, which I also like. The belts all came adjusted. There really wasn't much to do except bolt it together. So the next thing that I like about this is, one of the things that is also extremely easy to do on this is upgrade the firmware. None of this flashing your bootloader and getting an Arduino or some other type of flash device in order to get new firmware on it. The manufacturer releases firmware. You put it on a card, you stick the card in, you flip the power on, and it updates. Now, that doesn't mean that you're just going to go out and flash stock Marlin to it, because I'm not sure stock Marlin would run the touchscreen until somebody writes that code into it. But for right now, the manufacturer seems to be doing a really good job keeping up, updating the firmware and fixing any little problems that crop up with it. One of the problems I had with this that I was blaming on the touchscreen turned out not to be the touchscreen. It turned out to be the card, the micro SD card I was using. And once I replaced that with a quality brand name micro SD card, then all my problems with the touchscreen went completely away. So if you, and that was the card that came with it that I was having problems with. So if you get a card when you go to copy an STL file to it and it hangs, or you get it in the printer and you're tapping on things and nothing's happening, yeah, try a good quality card. You know all the good quality brand names. You don't need me to name them. Something I didn't like about this, and I went over in one of my previous videos, was this spool holder. It's good enough to get you up and going, but one of the first things you're going to want to print is a better spool holder. Honestly, I don't really consider that much of a negative. It's something you're probably going to do anyway. Even the Ender 3 spool holder, which mounts up on the frame, which the stock one is pretty nice, even that one I've modified it to make it slightly better to fit a wider range of spools. Bed leveling on it, I went over bed leveling. Bed leveling is really easy on this. I did put the larger nuts on the bottom to make it even easier, but boy, it's really easy to level the bed on this, really quick and easy. You'll also notice that I do not have the stock bed on it anymore. Here's the stock bed over here. No, I didn't break it, for those of you who've watched my previous videos. Here's the stock bed here. They give you a very nice piece of glass, which I think they said was borosilicate glass, but I can't remember. It's a really nice piece of glass, and it's got one of these nice print surfaces on it. Problem is, for me, it's not flat. And I was trying to print on it. I really wanted to like this piece of glass, but as soon as I started having problems with it, I leveled the corners using the leveling on there, and then I unlocked the X and the Y axis, and I moved out into the center, and getting my nice one sheet of paper using these long notepad sheets, which works really well. Getting my one sheet thickness here, I could slide 5 sheets under it in the center. So I got a buddy of mine who tells me he knows a way to make these flat, but to be honest with you, I had a 12-inch mirror square in the garage. 12-inch mirror squares are $8.99 US at the local home improvement store. So I just put the mirror on it, and that solved all my problems. So I haven't even gone back to fooling with the stock piece of glass yet. So these are so cheap. I mean, these are, I think I got 6 of them for $8.99. They're about $1.20 each. I'm not going to fight with something for $1.20. And the nice thing about mirror is all you have to do is look at your reflection in it to tell whether it's flat. If it's is not flat as that piece of glass is, you would notice it immediately in your reflection. And the people who make mirrors know that, and that's why they're flat. So highly recommend mirrors. Even if you're going to put some type of high-tech print surface over it, start with a flat surface or you're going to have troubles. So enough about that. This printer is also pretty quiet. It's quieter than the Ender 3. Now, I didn't really think the Ender 3 was very loud, but if I was running in my bedroom, I'd probably think it was. This is a little office workroom I use, and it doesn't really bother me. I just pull the door shut if it's printing and go into another room. But this is considerably quieter than the Ender 3. I suspect the main reason is these big rubber, it's got rubber feet on the bottom that are probably 25 millimeters, 25 millimeters thick, and they're really soft. That might have a lot to do with it as well. I can't think of any other reason why it would be quieter. This has Tronxy stepper motors on it, which makes me think it might be Tronxy building this. But these motors are not loud. The fans, this little print cooling fan is kind of loud, but it certainly isn't anything I consider to be obnoxious. The cooling fan inside of here, I mean, I can hear it when it's running, as long as my air conditioner isn't, or other fan in the room isn't running. It doesn't, I don't even notice it during the day. So I don't really consider this to be very loud at all. But to those of you who are familiar with an Ender 3, it is quieter than the Ender 3. So let's look at some of these prints. And some of the problems I'm having with these prints I'm having with all my printers. But I'm still getting good printouts. You can see I'm getting a very, very nice, I don't know, can you see it? Getting a very, very nice bottom print surface on that mirror. It really is nice. There you go. Really is nice. And that mirror probably had 4 or 5 prints on it before I did this one too. The top surface, Kira and I are still having somewhat of a battle on top surfaces when lines go into a round, or when round goes into lines, it tends to leave gaps. And I've tweaked it a bit and I've gotten it better, but I still haven't completely solved the problem. And I've tried a few other slicers and they all do it to some degree. These battery things, these are my own design. I print these for friends and I sell a few here and there. This holds 3 batteries, and you can hear how nicely they fit on and off. I mean, this printer makes very, very accurate prints. The bed is very smooth going forward. The Z-axis is very smooth. One issue, and it's not an issue with this particular printer, it's an issue with this particular design of printer, where the control box is separate from the print body itself. The Ender 3, the control box, the power supply, even the spool holder was all mounted to the print body. It made it compact. It didn't take up a lot of a big footprint this way. It also kept the crazy wires, spaghetti wires down to a bare minimum. On this one and on other printers like this, CR10 and others, you're going to have to deal with all this mass of wires that come from the control box over to the printer itself, and trying to keep them out of the way as the bed moves. I've tried a couple different solutions and keeping them a couple different areas, and I've finally got them so they're out of the way, both up and down, although I still keep an eye on it, especially if I go very high in the Z-axis. But as I said, that's not a problem with this particular printer. That's a problem with printers of this particular design. One thing this printer does that is, I won't say it's concerned me, it's just something to watch for. If you stop a print, and because you've messed up the STL and as soon as it started you realized it, if the first layer started poorly, whatever, if you have to stop a print, when you go to restart it, one of the problems I'm having a lot, and I'm betting this can be fixed in firmware, I was hoping it was fixed in the last one, but it wasn't, is when it goes to start the print, the hot end will go all the way back to the back corner and start spewing out filament. And when it does that, this is what you get. I mean, it's actually pretty cool. And but now I've learned to watch, and I can tell before it even starts. When it comes to home and it starts to move over to the print, if the z-axis doesn't start going down because I have my nozzle move up a ways before it starts to move because of the binder clips. If it does, the z-axis doesn't start to descend and it starts just going all the way, I just flip the power off, flip it back on, and start the print again. Then it's fine. And most of us have learned you keep your eye on the first layer. And once the first layer is done, that's a good indication that the rest of the print is going to be really good. I hope they fix that in firmware because I'm not the most diligent of people. Sometimes I turn my back on things and kind of forget it, and then when I do, I get these. That's actually kind of cool. I enjoy doing that. So I'm trying to really think of anything else negative about this printer, but so far in 2-3 rolls of filament, I haven't. That's pretty much it for what I don't like about it. And boy, those things are seriously minor. This is a solid, good functioning printer. I've printed as high as 80 millimeters per second, and it keeps up with it and has no problems. There are some minor things you can print to improve, and I have a video on that too. 5 things you can print right now that will make this a better printer. And some of those, I'm not even sure it really improves that much. The bed wheels, absolutely. The spool holder, absolutely. The little filament guide back here, honestly, I don't really think it needs to be there because I may be wrong. We print something high in the z-axis, it does seem to help, but I'm not really that convinced about it. The power resume feature does work. My power hasn't gone out here except this one time, and that was my fault. And I goofed that print up. The printer tried to resume, but I screwed up. I tested it myself. I pulled the plug and put it back in, and it did offer to resume, and it did work. The filament out sensor absolutely does work as long as the end of the filament comes off the spool so it can feed in past the filament sensor. It absolutely does work, and it works well. It stops it immediately. There was no alarm I heard, but it stops it immediately. And I'm 60 years old, actually 61, and I've shot firearms a lot in my life, and I worked in manufacturing, so I have no high range to my hearing anymore. So if it's doing one of those high range beeps like my dryer does, I'm not going to hear it. But anyway, it works really well. It stopped the printer. It says pause, and it says something like ran out of materials or materials out, and it's really easy at that point to feed in another filament and the filament and get it going again. Worked really well. When the actually comes off, I've got to remember to go inside and snip the piece of filament inside off that they bent over so it actually will come off of the spool. So learn from my lesson there if you're using one of these and you expect to use the filament out feature. It does work, but you do need to make sure it comes off. As I said, I've printed a bunch of things with it. I'm really not finding so far. The fans haven't died on me. One of my Ender 3 died within the first week. The fans all seem to be functional. This printer is sold by GearBest and only by GearBest, so it is one of their in-house brands. Who actually makes it, I don't know, but it does have Tronxy stepper motors on it, so that's an indication of who it might be made by. But if you're one of those people and you don't really want to buy a printer that comes in 500 different pieces, where you have to assemble all of them and then you have to square it up and make sure things are level, make sure things run smoothly and aren't binding, this would be a fantastic printer for you. It's also not very expensive. It's $279 right now at GearBest. And it comes with a little spool of filament. Comes with one of these little 200-gram spools of filament, and you can see size of it compared to that. It actually printed quite a bit of stuff. It printed all of these bed wheels. It actually printed 2 of these. The one back there isn't yellow because I broke one, And while I was waiting, I had something else printing on here, so while I was waiting, I printed another one over on the Ender 3. But yeah, I've run 60-hour prints on this, and it's just been fabulous. The prints are accurate. They're every bit as good as the prints I get on my Ender 3 after weeks of tweaking and tuning and adjusting and making sure things run smooth. This printer was printing like that right out of the box, and within an hour. So if you're one of those guys that don't want to do the assembly, if you don't want to replace all the parts like on the Ender 3, it comes with a plastic filament feeder that's going to work for a couple of weeks and then it's going to fail on you. If you don't want to be doing all that and you want something you can just put together out of the box, right now for $279, I don't think there's anything better. Certainly nothing better that I've seen or I've watched videos of for this price. And it's got a big bed. It's 300 by 300 by, I think they say 400 high. I haven't tested that, but it certainly, cables barring, it certainly can go 400 high. So this is my review of this printer. I have had it for probably 3 weeks now and have been printing on it extensively that whole period of time, and I really like it a lot. It has some minor negatives, but boy, they are very minor compared to the positives of it. So if you're looking for a printer this size and you're looking to save a little bit of money and you don't mind buying a store brand, this is in America we have all these store brands of things that are usually made by the same manufacturer that puts their own brand on it and charges half again as much. This is basically a CR10 with a touchscreen made by Alfawise, an in-house GearBest brand. So there you have it. If I can answer any questions for you, if there's anything you'd like to see me print on it, any mods you think I should try on it, and I have not printed anything but PLA at this point in time on this printer. I'm saving that for future videos. I have ABS, I have PETG, I have nylon, and I have forgot the other one I have. Anyway, I've got a flexible filament, a Foxsmart flexible filament that you saw me. If you watched my other videos on the Ender 3, you saw here is something I printed on the Ender 3 out of it, this little rocket ship, and you can see it's stupidly flexible. It printed great on the Ender 3, so we're going to be trying some of that on this printer as well, because I can't really enclose the Ender 3. If I have to print an ABS or nylon, this is going to be the printer I'm going to be doing it on. I'm going to pick up a couple of those cheap tables from IKEA, and I'm probably going to enclose this, and we're going to try some ABS on it. If you haven't seen my video of how filament stands up in the Arizona sun, check that out as well. I need something I can print for outside type of things and in-car type of things. And PETG seems good. Nylon, I'm still trying to make a nylon video, and I just haven't quite gotten the handle on nylon yet. I can do fairly well with nylon, but not as well as I'd like. So I'm holding off on that. So if you have any questions about this printer, please ask me in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. If there's anything you'd like me to try, anything you want to know, just ask. If this video has helped you, or if you like it, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. I'm going to have a link down below to GearBest for this printer. I'm going to try and get you guys coupons and good prices on it. These are affiliate links. They don't cost you any more, and they help me out a little bit. So if you're looking for one of these printers, give one of my links a shot. I'll put a link down there for the Ender 3 as well. I just got a new coupon code from GearBest on the Ender 3, and that will be down there as well. Thanks, and have a great day, and keep coming back. Bye now.